Now, for the first time this year, we will not be splitting the chapter. We'll be having one test over all of chapter 3. And chapter 3 is all about exponents and logarithms. Okay? Now, that can be really, really easy, or it can be really, really hard, depending on how much you're paying attention, how much you're doing the practice work, how much you're studying. So, let's start today, get real focused. The papers I've graded so far have been all A's and B's. I haven't graded very many, but everything I've graded so far has been really good. So, that's great.
Test or the essay?
That's good. The test.
Okay.
The essays have been pretty good too. I haven't graded, I've only gotten 5 or 6, but they've been pretty good too. Now, here we go. The essays, by the way, I put in as I grade them. So as I get them graded, I put them in. So yours may be graded and somebody else's isn't, and I just put them in as I get them graded. All right, we're on page 24. We want to know which of these are exponential functions. If they are, we're going to state whether they're growth or decay. We're going to state the rate of growth and decay, and we're going to state the initial value. Now, you may, right now at this moment, have no idea what in the heck I'm talking about. So let's just start off with the basic rules. This is exponential. An exponential, you remember from your BFS. Do you remember your BFS?
Yes.
What did the exponential equation look like? E to the x. This is the key right here. If x is your variable, or excuse me, if x is your exponent, you're exponential. So this would not be exponential because x is not my exponent. This is exponential. Okay? So how do we tell if it's exponential? Is x the exponent?
Yes.
Okay. Now, state if it is growth or decay. The number that has the exponent, we call it the base. We're multiplying by powers of that number. If you multiply by something bigger than 1, you get bigger, right? Think about it. If I multiply by 2, I get bigger, right? What if you multiply by 1/2? You get smaller. So growth or decay is based on the size of the base. If the base is bigger than 1, it's going to be growth. If it's less than 1, it's going to be decay. So this is an example of an exponential growth problem. Does that make sense? Everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay. Now, state the rate of growth or decay. When I am multiplying by 1.23, that is like 123%. Would you agree with that? So this is a 23% growth. It is the original 100 plus an additional 23%. If I were multiplying by 0.87, that would be a decay problem. And it's 13% decay. Very good. Because this is not 1 plus 23, it's 1 minus 13%. So this would be a 13% decay problem, if you had that. The initial value is this guy right here. It's what we start with. An exponential is of the form a times b to the x. A is your initial value, always. So later on we'll be doing some word problems, and we'll have a city whose population is 2,000, and it's growing at 8%. Well, let's think about that. If we started with 2,000 and we were growing by 8%, what would we be multiplying by? 1.08, that's it exactly. And if we're doing it for 5 years, we would raise it to the 5th power or whatever. We'll talk more about that later, but I want you to get used to the fact that this number out in front is always your initial value. That's how many people you're starting with, how much money you're starting with, how many amoebas you're starting with. That's the initial value. Okay, so now we should be ready to do B. Number 1, exponential or not?
Yes.
Yes. X is the exponent. Number 2, growth or decay?
Decay.
Decay. The base, the 0.83, is smaller than 1. Percentage of decay? 17%. Very good. 17%. When you multiply by 0.83, you've lost 17%. What's the initial value?
1/2.
1/2. Perfect. C.
No.
Exponential?
No.
No. Everybody okay with that? No. So we don't answer any more questions. We move on. D. Exponential?
Yes.
Yes.
Growth.
Growth or decay?
Growth.
Growth.
By 2%.
1.02 is growth. What's the percent?
2%.
2% growth. 2% growth. Initial value? 100. Perfect. E, tricky problem. Not exponential. To be exponential, x has to be your exponent, and there can't be any other x's. This has to be a constant, a number. So we are not exponential for E. Everybody okay? That's kind of a tricky one. F, exponential?
Yes.
Yep. Growth or decay?
Decay.
Decay, percent? 8%, 0.08 or 8%. Initial value? 3.6. That's probably going to be question number 1 on the test. Does anybody have an issue with that? Everybody got it so far? Hang on a second. Okay, look, why don't you take a look at number 2 there, 2A, and see what you can figure out. How about around 11? Okay, great. All right, thank you. That's perfect. Okay. They are. They are. Some people walking around. They are. We are part. Well, we are part of. Okay, schools belong to associations. We belong to an association called ISACs, Independent Schools of the Central States, or something like that. And every 7 years, we have to go through an accreditation process where they come in and say, okay, if you want to be part of our organization, you have to be living up to these standards.
Okay.
And so we prepared, over the last 2 years, we prepared a report where we've evaluated everything. Like somebody, not me, somebody evaluated the math department. I was part of the team that evaluated the special services of the school. Somebody does transportation. Every aspect of the school is evaluated. We send them this report, they study it. Then they come in and see if we're actually doing what we said we're doing. So that's what they're doing now. They're just kind of checking up on us.
What happens if you're not doing what you say you're doing?
Right.
Then you're out of the organization.
Right. So
Wait, yeah, what he said.
Like if we don't meet up to the standard.
if we don't meet their standards, it's never happened, but if we didn't, I think what would happen is they would come back to us and say, okay, you need to fix X, Y, and Z, or you can't be part of this club. And so we would fix X, Y, and Z, and then they would come back and say, okay.
What do they do for us? They
Yeah,
just
that's
like
what I
make
was
us an
wondering.
actual school?
What do they do
Yeah,
for us?
kind of. It's an accreditation. It gives us validity. Otherwise, I mean, like your mom and dad could start a school, but would colleges accept their transcripts? No. I mean, so it gives us validity as a school. Remember, we're not part of the diocese. So we have to, I mean, we are part of the diocese, but not in our diocesan school. So we're not getting our validity from them. We have to have an outside organization. So ISACS is other private schools in the Midwest.
Oh.
It's a perfect organization for us to belong to. And they're very nice people. And they came to Canned Food Drive yesterday, they came to Math League this morning. I mean, they're really checking us out. Huh?
Yeah, same actually.
Yeah, I was just walking in and they saw the news.
I was just standing outside.
I made eye contact and he
During the
and he
announcement.
just goes, he just like grins there.
I like how they have the little yellow lanterns.
Yeah.
I think that's
Wait,
cool.
aren't the freshmen yellow?
Feel like
Everybody go.
Okay.
More like a master.
All right, so now we're ready for the next part, and I want to get through one of these. I told you that exponential met this form. Okay, let's memorize that. Just like you have memorized that y equals mx plus b is a line. When I say to you, let's write a line, you think y equals mx plus b. Now I want you to think y equals a times b to the x. That's the format for exponential. So when they give me these 2 points, first thing I want you to do is take the point that's a 0. We're not doing slope. This isn't a line. This thing looks like this, remember? That's what exponentials look like. So we're not doing slope. Block that out of your mind. I want you to take the point that has a 0, and I'm going to make sure, because I'm in control of it, I'm going to make sure that your point, one of them always has a 0, okay? So one of your points is going to have a 0. Take the point that has a 0 and plug it in. So 2 equals a times b to the 0. See what I did? I put in my x and my y from this point right here. Now, who can tell me what b to the 0 is? 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1. If you don't already know that, know it. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So what this really says is 2 equals a times 1, right? Which means 2 equals a, right? So now my equation looks like y equals 2b to the x, because I just figured out a was 2. Guess what I'm going to do now? I'm going to plug in the other point. So 6 equals 2 times b to the first. Right? So I'll divide both sides by 2. So b equals 3. So my equation is y equals 2 times 3 to the x. Now, guess what you're going to be tempted to do when you write that? You cannot multiply them. In your format, the a and the b are separate numbers. The 2 and the 3 are separate numbers. They cannot be combined. The 3 has an x, the 2 does not. They stay just like that. That's the answer to the question. Okay? So tomorrow, or Thursday, we will pick up there. Okay? Do not forget the canned food drive. Do not forget your essays are due Friday at the beginning of the period.
I thought it was hilarious.